All right, let's get into some storylines for 2026. We all wrote down a couple. I'll kick us off here. And this is a little bit what we just talked about. This is kind of my Scottie Tiger year. You know, you win 2 majors last year. What do you do this year? If he wins 2 majors this year, I'm talking 10, 11. Career-wise in terms of the number, I think totality for Scottie, considering the way he plays Augusta National and the fact that he's already won there now a couple times. So to me, this is that next season. What are you going to do the year after you have the year? And that's really my big focus on 2026 is that with Scottie Scheffler. I'm excited to see what he does once we get to Augusta and beyond. And Johnson, you already touched on it. Obviously, a chance to get the career Grand Slam very, very quickly on his 30th birthday on Sunday, which is pretty wild. Patrick, what do you have in terms of your first storyline for 2026?
You know, it's pretty similar to yours. What do you do the year after you have the year? But it's with Rory McIlroy. And I think 2025 set up perfectly for him, where he has been a player throughout his career where if there's a carrot dangling in front of him, he tends to play better golf. And he had all those motivational checkpoints, it felt like, throughout 2025 with the Masters, returning to Portrush for the Open Championship, and then obviously the away Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black too. And so I'm curious, what is he going to do without all that motivational, that easy motivational stuff that is laid out in front of Rory McIlroy? And then when you dive into his stats from 25, everyone talked about the wedge play and how it was so much better, so much more controlled leading into that Masters. But his iron play dropped off the back half of the year, specifically from 150, 175 yards. That's an area where he has typically made a lot of his noise, and you see the switch from blades to cavity back irons, cavity back Brown, right? Blades Brown changed his name now to cavity back. And quietly, Rory McIlroy had his best putting season too in 2025. So I feel like something's going to have to give for Rory this year. Is his putting going to stay there and his iron play is going to come back to that level, or is his putting going to drop off and that iron play is going to kind of stay where it is too? So I'm really interested to see where Rory goes without those motivational aspects, and with his iron play kind of in a little bit of a flux as he kind of gets it going there on the DP World Tour, and we'll see him there at Pebble Beach in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Johnson, Rory has always come off to me as a guy that likes the checklists, right? He likes having something on the board to point at. I thought last year a lot of us I was one of them that got it wrong after the Masters win, thinking now he's freed up. He's going to go out there and rip it up. And obviously that was the opposite case in terms of the way he played major championship golf. But for Rory, I'll be very interested in where he finds that level of motivation this season, considering all that happened last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly going into the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, we all thought he was just going to go on this incredible run. The weight was lifted. That didn't pan out. But I think Rory's finding motivation from different spots. He said in Dubai last week he's going to go play places he wants to play this year, not places that he feels like he has to play. So I think he's finally comfortable setting his own schedule, not being the voice of world golf and not having to go play on all these places to try to grow the game. I think he's going to look a little bit more in a good way, a little bit more selfish and play where he wants to play and enjoy it more. Because I think in the last couple of years, professional golf for Rory McIlroy turned into a job. He even said that in Dubai as well. He wants to go out and have fun playing golf, where that's how he grew up playing. That's how he got so good, was that love of the game and love of playing competitive golf.
Yeah, and I wrote a piece last year about what's left for Rory. I look at the Open next year, St. Andrews Open next year, the whole Jack Nicklaus quote about, you're not a player we remember unless you've won an Open at St. Andrews. That, to me, is the big motivation in terms of what's left on the resume. Johnson, I know you're kind of looking at the youngsters in 2026.
I am. I think when PGA Tour U program came out a few years ago, I was sort of a grumpy veteran player that wanted all these guys to go to Q school. But when you look at the totality of how these guys have performed, even like an Austin Eckroat was in that first class, went to the Korn Ferry Tour, came up, he's won twice. Now we've got this direct path. Luke Clanton got the accelerated card right to the PGA Tour. Michael Thor Bjornsson was the second guy after Ludwig Oberg to get the direct path. David Ford this year. Johnny Kiefer, who went from PGA Tour U to PGA Tour Americas, finished number 1 in a shortened season, got to the Korn Ferry Tour, finished number 1. Now he's a rookie on the PGA Tour. Which one of these young guys, we've already seen Michael Brennan win last fall at the Black Desert Championship, which one of these young budding superstars is going to be the first to get a win this year? And I think we're going to see multiple of those 4 or 5 5 guys that I named get that first win and sort of take that next step. Because when you look at who's going to challenge Scottie Scheffler, it's got to be someone from a younger generation. So who will it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think Neil Shipley as well is another name on that list of like young player that has a lot of talent that I think people are excited to see competing and being very interested and involved on the PGA Tour. And then, I mean, you talk PGA Tour Ben James, a youngster out of Virginia that's going to graduate this year. I know he's already excited and looking at some PGA Tour starts basically this summer to get himself ready as a pro. Patrick, any youngsters you're kind of focused on this season as you look kind of through maybe away from a Blades Brown?
I'm very high on Thor Bjornsson coming into this year. I think, we can laugh about TGL stuff, but just being in the same room as Rory McIlroy and some of those guys, I think will only be beneficial to him. And then you look at his game, he is just such a great driver of the golf ball. If there's an area where he might need to clean up, I'm thinking the wedge play perhaps, but that's a fun area to clean up for a young guy, in my opinion. So of those guys Johnson mentioned, I think Thor Bjornsson is going to be the guy to win first.
There's so many good young players. I mean, that's my favorite part about doing the Korn Ferry Tour throughout the year is the fact that you get to watch these guys come up and compete and potentially win. And I mean, Johnson, you said it. They're popping up quickly, man, and they're hungry. These young guys, it's not once every 5 years now. I mean, it feels like every year, they pop up on the PGA Tour and have an opportunity to compete and win. My second storyline is just number 2. Who's going to be the Avis this year in terms of the player that kind of pushes Scottie? I mean, obviously you got Rory. Is Rahm going to do anything in the majors? What's Bryson going to do? Brooks in terms of the hunger, maybe getting back to the PGA Tour. Even a Xander. I mean, Patrick, 2 years ago, it was Xander is really the number 2 in terms of PGA Tour and professional golf. And I mean, beyond those names, Ludwig, Collin Morikawa. I mean, we always talk Jordan and JT, right? Is there somebody that's going to emerge this year as that number 2 player? I don't know who it's going to be necessarily, but I hope there's somebody that floats around near the top of these big leaderboards and basically has themselves maybe a great year away from a Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, if not, we're going to kind of go back to that Tiger comp, like VJ's 2004. That's kind of what Xander Schauffele's 2024 is trending towards, where during the reign of Scottie Scheffler, somehow this guy won 2 major championships. In the midst of that, people are going to forget about the rest. Obviously, they're at Valhalla, but still, it still happened. A name you didn't mention, Tommy Fleetwood, also. Kind of a slower start there in the desert in his home in Dubai, but he's a guy who just had so much confidence towards the end of the year. And what I like the most about Fleetwood, everyone talked about his inability to close, but he didn't really give himself a ton of chances, I thought, before the back half of that 2025 season. He's mentioned that the best players in the world, they're always in with a chance. I think Fleetwood's going to be around the first page of the leaderboard a lot and give himself more chances to win this year.
That is a 2026 U.S. Open champion, Tommy Fleetwood. Please, can you make sure you call him the correct name? He's gonna get that done there finally after that crazy final round. You've got kind of a return to form list, Patrick, in terms of players you're looking at this season to get back to playing some good golf once again.
Yeah, I was going through some of these guys' 2025 seasons, and a lot of guys had down years, right? It's easy to focus on Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy and how well they played, but you mentioned Xander Schauffele. He didn't make the Tour Championship for the first time in his career. Kind of ironic, right, when it starts from 0 for the first time and Xander's not there, given his proficiency at Eastlake. Sahith Theegala battled some injury. Max Homa returning to form, it seems like. But I want to highlight Xander and where it went wrong for him. And you look on the greens, it's very clearly that his putter just let him down. He's typically inside that top 40 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting. But last season, he was losing about 0.2 strokes to the field per round. And that obviously trickles to the rest of your game. You go to 2024, obviously it was the best season of his career, but he led the PGA Tour in terms of scrambling at 71%. Last year, that was down to 58%. He was number 1 in par 3 scoring. He played the par 4s in under par fashion. That obviously leads to a couple major championships and a boatload of top 10 finishes. He played both of those in over par fashion. And then it also trickles into the scoring side of things too, not just the saves. He averaged 2 less birdies per round. And so for Xander Schauffele, I think the fall swing was massive for someone like him. It showed his toughness, not quite that major championship toughness, but a different type of toughness that he's able to gut it out when things aren't going right. He played great at the Ryder Cup. He picked up that win at the Bay Current Classic in Japan. And so I'm expecting a return to form for Schauffele similar to 2024 this year. And it all stems from that putter and him getting back inside, I don't know, the top 20 in strokes gained putting.
Yeah, Johnson, he's a player that, the consistency of Xander has been so impressive throughout his career. Really, I mean, basically Aaron Hill's on. I mean, he's been one of the most consistent players in the world. Last year, really the outlier when you think about the way we've seen Xander go about his business.
Well, he had that rib injury following playing out at Maui, and I think it's funny that his putting was struggling because that was the one thing he could work on while he was recovering from the rib injury. It's a tough one to come back from, and it's kind of like Jordan Spieth coming back from a wrist injury last year. I know he was on your list as well, Patrick. I think Jordan having that year under his belt coming off of that wrist injury, I think we're going to see a steady improvement. I know he's been around since 2013, but Jordan Spieth is still young. He's in the prime of his career. Can we see him? I don't think we'll ever see 2015 Jordan Spieth again, but can we see some sort of level of that where we can have hope as Jordan Spieth fans? I'm a Jordan Spieth fan. Can we have that level of hope that we can see him get into contention in majors again and possibly pick off one, maybe two more the rest of his career?
Yeah, Johnson, Jordan's still one of those, like, I'm going to turn the TV and watch this guy in contention fellas, right? And we don't have a ton of those in professional golf. I mean, I think Rory's always been that guy, obviously with Scottie. Brooks has been a guy like that for a long time. But Jordan Spieth's still one of those players when he's near the top of the leaderboard, no matter the golf tournament, you want to watch because you know it's going to be fun to watch no matter if it goes good or if it goes poorly. And I think all of us have kind of been waiting for Jordan Spieth to get back to that level of form. So excited about 2026, obviously excited about what's going to come.